So let's look at what's included in the Imagine That Laser Art 3-in-1 kit. You can see it comes in a large box. This is another picture of the kit that we're going to be assembling. And let's see what we get in the box here. So first of all is the instruction booklet. It's got some pictures of the models in it. An example of a weathered wall, the kind of look you can get. But notice that the instruction book is very detailed and also full of color photographs. And it also gives you suggestions on how to do the construction and different variations that you can build. Really detailed photographs. So it's from my experience, this is a very good instruction manual. Some more examples in the back of the completed model, and that's it there. Also included in the kit, you get some of the paper signs that you can put on the walls. A couple sheets of those in case you make any mistakes, and you can print out some more copies. A couple sheets of acetate to use for the windows. And then you get 3 bags of parts. These are the detail parts for the roof, and also that's for the loading dock. And you can see the lentils in there, the brick lentils. Okay. These are the wall sections. These come in sealed bags. So they're, in good shape. They're not, parts are not warped at all. Made with MDF. The cutouts for the windows are all taped in place so they don't fall out. Notice that this is a new a difference with the kit from the earlier version, is that now that the blanks for the windows are bricked out, so you can color these differently and leave create different finishes. Like a bricked out window, which is very good. And the windows come on a separate sheet, so you can finish those by themselves. And also some of the windows, I don't know if you can see that close, some of the windows still have the blanks in them, as if the windows were broken. You can color those a little differently. The fans are completely see-through there. So very detailed windows. The muttons are very fine. You can get a really good looking factory window with that. This is for the water tower. You get some bars, steel bars for the doors and windows. This is for the roof access hatch. The wooden doors that go over the loading docks. The front of the dock, you get that piece. This is more of the loading dock wood version, and some pallets. So you get some items you can put around the on the loading dock for added detail parts. And cornices are separate, so you can do those over the doors and so forth. So let's look at some of the assemblies. I've put these together already. I've cut off the top section of the walls and glued that to the bottom section. As I mentioned, in the kit it just comes with these sections here, so your normal kit would come up to this line right here. And so I've just glued them together with white glue, and I've put some bracing in the back. I just cut out some 1/8 inch hardboard into strips and use that as bracing to hold all the sections together. And you can see on this section it's put it across there, but they're just butt joined together. Working with the laser cut kit is really nice, and in this seam of the wall, they're all keyed together like this here. They fit really nicely. They come out of the mold just perfect. There's no flash that you have to clip off on a lot of these pieces. Okay. So to cover the seams, they give you a lot of these pilasters, and once again they come out of the frets very cleanly. They're just held on by a little tab on the top and the bottom, and you can touch those up with a file if you want. And I just use these to cover the seam, and I cut this one off at the brick line because there's going to be a loading dock in this area here. So it even mentions in the instructions that you just got to cut that off so that the dock will sit flush to the wall. And also for the horizontal raised brick areas, they give you a whole selection of cutouts so that you can stack them up and do different configurations. You can see that it's raised. You got three raised panels here, and to cover the horizontal areas. And I'm just using two of them. They're labeled C1, C2, C3, and C4. And I'm just going to use C2 and C3 together in this section here. In the middle, up top, I'll probably use at least three of them to create a larger lintel at the top. Yeah, you just glue those, knock them out, glue them over top of one another. I let them set up. I put something flat over top of them so they don't warp at all. I'm finding that the MDF works really well. It stays nice and flat when glued together. I just put some weight on it just to make sure. I work on a piece of granite here because it's perfectly smooth and flat. And yeah, so I'll be doing that. And let's do another pilaster over the corner to cover this indented area right here. So I just broke this out of the fret. I'm going to be cutting off the bricks at the bottom. There we go. And I'm going to put this one here flush with the outside. The glue tends to harden up in the nozzle there. There we go. And I like to smooth it out, get good coverage. The glue grabs really nice on the MDF, and then we're going to put one more piece down here at the bottom. So again, these just come right out quite easily. And touch that up at the top. And we'll just make sure it's nice and flush to the edge. Perfect. Okay, so the next step after this, I'm going to take one of the lentils that I prepared, just cut that to length, and we're going to put it in there. And we'll do the same thing on this edge. So I've completed putting this lentil across the middle of the wall here. I've used 3 different pieces. I used the C2 and the C3 pieces that they give you, and I also used a C4, which is a very fine two course layer of brick, and I've put that on top and just glued that on, and I put the top course over top of, that's the C3 I believe, I put that over top of the vertical lentil so that it makes one continuous ledge right across the wall. For the top, I think I'm going to do this in a concrete finish, so I'm going to use the C1 piece, and then that still has some brick showing on it, and probably turn over one of the other pieces. They give you lots of different options here. Here's the one, and put that backwards over top of the C4 piece and cover up the brick so that it creates a raised ledge, and then we'll color that in concrete. That's going to be for later. Now it's time, I'm going to paint all of these, give them first a coat of beige Rust-Oleum, which is a good base color, and that's going to seal the wood a little bit, and then I'm just going to do some craft paints over top and slather that on and create the brick color that I'm looking for. And then we'll do some signage across here. It's easier to work on them while they're flat rather than put everything together and trying to do the signs and all the painting and the weathering. So we're going to do as much as we can while the pieces are flat before assembling them and putting them vertical. Okay, let's look at the painting process for the wall sections. Since my first video crapped out and didn't work very well, let's go over this again. This was the big section that we put together, and I'm going to go over how we got this finish. As I mentioned, I think in the previous section, the base coat was the Rust-Oleum Camouflage Beige, and then now we're going to do the brick color over top. I used just regular craft paints. I've dispensed 3 different colors here: a brick red, a brown oxide, and a barn red, which is a little bit darker than the brick red. Just simple craft paints, and I've put them into the paint tray here, and the idea is to mix the colors together to get some variation. You don't want just one smooth color, and I've mixed water about 50-50 I'd say to get a pretty runny texture, and then we're going to put that on the brick surface. Okay, just use a brush to paint it on. It doesn't have to be neat, and I'm just not covering the block section here at the bottom. And the idea between the 3 different colors, I'm not trying to get it one uniform color, I'm trying to create some variation. Actually, I forgot a step here, and that is, in order to create some different shading on the bricks, I used some pan pastels. In this case, it's a neutral gray. You could also use something like a raw umber, okay, which is a little bit more brown to it. And I'm just going to put that on in some areas, okay, just to create some dark shades on the wall itself. Create a little more depth. Alright, see that? Okay, and then now we put the paint over top of it, and because the paint is kind of thinned 50-50 with water, you're going to be able to see that shading sort of through the paint. So this is called like pre-shading. You can see I'm dabbing from the different colors to create some variations in the color of the brick. It won't look so uniform there, especially with the pre-shading technique. Okay, so that looks pretty good, and you can also this kit has an accent strip of brick over top of all the doorways and windows, and you might want to take one solid color and go over just the accents to create a little more variation. Or some contrast, I guess, between the wall and the accent bricks. Now this is just still the beige color for the blocks down below, and I'm going to use a Pan Pastel neutral gray, which is kind of a concrete block color, and we just take the applicator sponge and color the block. Now this is going to create some contrast because this is just going over top on the top of the blocks, and it's going to leave the mortar lines a lighter beige color to create a bit of contrast. So then we don't have to worry about mortaring the blocks so much. I mean, we can still do it and create even more contrast. There, so now we've got the blocks colored, and you can see the paint's already dried nice and flat, and you can see the variation that we've created with the pre-shading using the pastels. And this side of the wall is a little more red and it fades more to the brown as I mixed in the different colors. So it creates some good aged brick shading there. Now, for the mortar, that once this dries, I use a Roberts brick mortar mix, which is kind of a white paste. It's very thin. It's almost like a very thin plaster, but you can feel that it is grainy. It is fairly thick there, and that just goes over top. This is still a little too much paint in the brush there. You just take the mortar mix and go over top of the brick with the mortar mix. You know, normally I'd let this dry for a little bit, or for a while. I'm just kind of doing this over top as a demonstration. And then you let that dry to a haze just like you would regular mortar doing tile. And then we take a paper towel, slightly moistened, or cloth, slightly moisten it, and you just brush off the mortar from the top of the bricks, and it stays inside the mortar lines. Okay, just like you would do if you're doing a kitchen floor or something with ceramic tiles. Okay, now that's the stage that I got to with the main wall section. So these lines have been mortared, and I've brushed off the mortar mix. The thing I found about it, though, it was a little more white there was a little too much residue from the mortar mix still on the top of the bricks. So what I chose to do to darken the surface a little bit was just like we did along here along the bottom with the blocks. We can just take some pan pastels. In this case I'm using red iron oxide, which is a dark brown, similar to a brick color, and just going over the top of the bricks this iron oxide color to darken the surface of the blocks. Take away some of the white. But in this following picture, it'll show you a close-up of the block and the brick, and how you can still see a little bit of the white in the mortar lines. It's just not as defined as it is here after the mortar mix was done. One more trick to add a little more interest is to notch out some of the bricks and expose as if the brick face has been broken off. I'm going to just expose the wood underneath. And then when we put the mortar mix on, it's going to sit down in those areas where it's been broken and create an interesting effect. And we're going to go back and weather those a little more later on with some gray, and yeah, just create an interesting effect. Anyways, we're going to let this mortar mix set up and then clean it off, and we'll see how that looks afterwards. Okay, we've talked about the painting of the wall sections, so now let's look at the windows. Sure, you could just use Rust-Oleum dark brown camo paint or a black paint, any kind of spray paint, and just spray these and be done, and that would be fine. But we're looking for something that's it's a little more detailed, a little more realistic. So what I've done with my windows is I do the camo paint first, or something dark black. I did that first, this whole sheet. All the windows are nice and easy to do on the one sheet. So I sprayed that, and then what I've done is I use my AK Interactive kind of, this one is filter for NATO tanks. It's kind of a dirt colored and it's a filter, so which means it doesn't have a whole lot of pigment in it. It's kind of like a wash, basically. It's an enamel wash, and I just paint that on. Show you, it's very, very runny. It's kind of thin, looks like dirt, and so we just put that on there, and I just do that over all the windows. This is kind of my go-to wash. I use it on engines and everything else to give kind of a dirty look to everything. So we do a layer of that on, and I don't know if you can pick it up, but I'll show the close-up of the before and after of these. And so this window on the left has the aged finish on it, and that's been dried. Then it's just two more steps. I go to my Worn Effects. It's chipping fluid. Okay, this one is called Worn Effects. They also have a heavy chipping fluid. This is also by AK Interactive. It's very similar to the hairspray technique. If you look up the hairspray technique, you'll find many videos on that as well. It's just a clear fluid. It's sort of acrylic base, same as an acrylic base hairspray. You just spray this the window surface with that, I use an airbrush to spray that on, and then no more than 10 minutes after that, then I airbrush a top layer of paint on. And you can use any color, but as long as it's acrylic base. So I'm using Model Color Deck Tan, which is kind of a light gray. This one is MIG brand acrylic paint, but you can use whatever railroad colors you have as long as they're acrylic base over top of the chipping fluid. And then we're going to go back and wet the surface and chip that off. And okay, let's look at the chipping effect now. I've painted with the Worn Effects chipping fluid and then the acrylic paint, and it's dried for about 10 minutes. It went on quite dry since I used an airbrush, and now we just take, I have a micro brush here, and I just moisten it with some water and just put that on the surface of the paint, and that softens the surface just a bit, activates the Worn Effects chipping fluid underneath the layer of paint, and makes it very easy to come off the surface. And that exposes sort of the worn, weathered paint effect that we did below this layer. And you can see it, I don't know how closely you can see it, but I'll show some close-ups picture after this. And you could also use a sharper object too to create some very fine scratches on the surface once it's been wetted a little bit. So show a close-up of the windows once it's been scraped off. And the last item we need for the windows is the ledge that goes on the bottom of the windows. And the Imagine That Laser Art method for doing windows is very good. Basically, you put the wall section on a flat surface. Okay, if you didn't have the bracer, I could put it, flat on the table. And you take one of the window sections. There's one that's weathered already. Okay. And the beauty of the laser cutting is that it's so precise, and I mean there's no sprue left on this very small one there, but basically they drop right in, and they're so precise. It's a nice snug fit without doing any filing. Just push that in place, and that's going to be flat with the bottom surface if this was flat on a table. Fits perfectly. And we take one of the ledges, the concrete ledge, which comes on a sprue. Yes, it comes on this sprue. All the ledges come in this place, and I've painted them gray. If you watch my video on painting and weathering concrete, and that's how I did these ledges, and they just drop right in over top, and there's no finicky fitting or making sure that they're all level. If this is, it goes in tight against the window frame, and if that's tight against the back, because we did it on a flat surface, then these are all going to be consistent as well, and they look fantastic. And you don't have to mask it off, you don't have to paint these by hand. These can all be painted separately, and the windows done separately, and you have a really unique, interesting weathered effect on your window panels. Let's look at some details from the back side before I close it up. I've done quite a bit of construction now since the last update where I was putting in the windows, and I wanted to show you the back side of all the details that I added. before putting on the back panels, which come with the kit. I've created some boxes. They serve two purposes: to support the back panels, and also I wanted to light just certain rooms on the structure. I didn't want to light all of the windows at the same time. I wanted to look like only certain rooms had lighting on. So I used this 4 nano LEDs, which come already wired to one connection. This was $10. I got it at a local train show, and it already has the resistors and the bridge rectifier installed, so that you can use up to, use the 7 to 19 volts AC or DC, even track power. You can just wire that right up. You don't have to put the extra resistors in, and you can use it on either polarity. I've used the nano lights here. 2 of them go through the wall to light the dock area, and one's lighting up these windows and one is lighting up the dock, where I've added some detail parts, just some crates and so forth. These don't come with the kit. These are just from separate items that I've had laying around. I put those in the dock area after painting the floor gray. I blocked out this loading dock, and the kit comes with some acetate, which I've just glued over the back of the windows. The windows are flush with the back wall, so it's very simple. You just cut out these big pieces and put those in place. I used Tester's clear part cement and window maker. This dries completely clear and won't cloud the acetate, so I like using that for the windows. I put another LED up in this room to illuminate these 3 windows, and probably put some more detail parts in there. The kit does come with some roof details, as I mentioned previously. These vents are from the kit. This one is just a Walther roof detail kit, and this was some other supplier. That's actually an O-scale vent, but looks good on this particular building. So that's the details from the back side. Let's look at some of the details from the front side now. So as you can see, I've almost completed the construction of the front of the structure as well. I'm about 99% done. The only thing left to do, I want to add some little canopies to the lights for the dock place. I'm making a little industrial lights just to cover the LED, which is I just drilled a hole in there and put the LEDs, those little nano LEDs, into the hole. And secondly, I built this dock. I just cast it out of hydrocal. If you look at my video on casting concrete and how to weather it, that's basically what I did for the dock section. I installed a door here. It's just an industrial pike stuff door, painted green, and I chipped a little, used some chipping fluid to put some rust effect underneath it. The piping, that's just something left over from my junk drawer. This was a cast vent, same as this one. This was a 3D printed vent from another supplier. I just used some old sprue here for some piping. This was a cast, I can't really call it, dust collector. Went on the outside wall. I broke off one of the little vents that come with the kit, and so I just put another vent end over the top of it. These vents come with the kit. As I mentioned before, they're just 3 pieces you glue together, and they were just rusted and weathered up. And as I mentioned, the roof details were put on top. I mentioned the decal. I just used regular Walther's decal, and this was printed off and just glued on the front of it. And I just need one more coating of dull coat, which I'm going to spray the structure to get the shine off of the windows. I don't care if they can't be completely seen through. Most factories don't have clean windows. They'll get a bit cloudy from the dull coat, but that's the effect that I'm going for. Don't want anything shiny on this structure. So let's review some of the details that they give you with the kit. For the roof, they give you, I'll show you how they make the water tower. It comes with the cross bracing for the support. It has 3 square pieces that you glue into the middle of the core. I'm not really happy with the way it lined up. It was a little bit finicky, but when from a distance up on the roof, you're never going to see that, so that's not too bad. And then it's got this cross section piece which goes on top of that, and then the core is 3 discs that you glue to a square center core, and it's even marked on the core where to glue those down to. The roof has a bunch of little segmented pieces that all lock together, so it's a very simple assembly. They lock on the on this ring, and then you take the roof piece, bend it slightly, and glue that down. That wasn't too difficult, and then I filled in the cracks with just some white glue and let it set up in there to give you a fairly smooth finish. And the last item is the round outside of the water tower, and it's there's very detailed instructions. What they tell you to do is boil some water, let it soak in the water for about 10 minutes, and that will make it soft and pliable so that it doesn't crack when you bend it. And you take something round after you take it out of the water. Take something round like a marker or something, or a highlighter. Put that around there. It is quite pliable once it's been soaking in the water. And just put some elastics around it and let that sort of dry overnight in the round configuration. Then tomorrow we'll go back and just glue it to the core, and then we'll put everything together. Very simple. They also give you some chimneys, some just brick sheet that you'd attach to a core, and gives you the top piece. Very simple to attach. I didn't attach to my structure because I think these are sort of for an older era. I have the more modern smokestacks that I've put on the on top of the structure. And then last but not least, I'd like to, this is not in the kit, but something I like to do for industrial lighting is I use a Detailed Associates number 7202, or the concrete piers for bridges. And I like the shape of them. They're kind of hollow, and what I do is just cut off one side of this concrete pier and let it sit on an angle on the wall. And I have the nano LEDs poking through the wall, and then I put a piece of clear acetate on the bottom of this concrete pier, which is hollow, and then glue glue that to the wall over top of the LED that's just poking through, and it makes a very realistic looking industrial light. And then the last thing I have to do with these is just paint them a little bit gray to take some of the shine off of them, and they cast a nice light onto the loading dock. The loading dock, as I mentioned, is cast from Hydrocal. I just did a real quick mold for it, and one item of detail is this L channel, which I put right in the mold so that it left a little indentation on the Hydrocal casting. And then I was able to paint this later and then glue it to the edge of the dock like a steel sort of piece of L channel to protect the edge of the dock. So I just got out a few more details over here, and we'll go over it one more time once it's on the layout. So if you remember yesterday, I soaked this wrap in hot water for about 10 minutes, and then put an elastic around it, wrapped it around this marker. And now today, when we take off the elastic, it stays in the round shape. And so I could have popped this out yesterday, but we'll carefully pop that out now. There. It's only held in by a couple little tabs, so it comes off pretty easily. Just cut this flash off. Just a couple little pieces of flash. Okay, so now we take the core and our glue. Hopefully this works okay. Yeah. No need to be overly neat with this. Okay, put that around it. See, it seals up nice, lines up perfectly. Once again, that's the beauty of these laser parts, they're so precise. And I'm going to put the elastic back around the core and let the glue set up. And we'll come back and finish that up later. See the top, which I painted black last night, that's going to go on there. And we'll stain the wood a little bit. And that piece goes on there, and then this piece is going to go in the middle. And that's going to be our water tower in the end. Okay, so I have the model in place, and it's time to put the cherry on top of the sundae, or maybe the star on top of the tree, and finish off the model. I'm going to put that right there. Just going to leave that loose for now. It's not going to go anywhere, and that's the final model. Here's a few pictures and close-ups of the final work.